All right. And we're live. All right. How's it going, boys?
Yo,
We've
what's up?
we've got Asher and Kendarr. And Kendarr, you actually, first I didn't know you were actually coming on until like, I don't know, half an hour before or something. You suddenly said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming." I didn't believe it. But yeah. So how you guys doing? Like, are you guys hyped for the war or what?
Personally, I'm pretty excited. I mean, a lot of when you're planning for a war like this, a lot of it is actually, I find the planning very fun, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's like you're sitting here and you're just kind of like in a dark room brainstorming, like, what would I do if I was them, right? And then you have to sort of come up with the counter strategies. So that's like a really fun aspect of it. At least I think that way.
You
Yeah,
subscribe to
I mean,
Canva?
definitely. We both
That's
talked,
so hot.
Yeah.
and like we were throwing around ideas and all that kind of stuff. And it's good fun. It's good fun to just think about like possibilities, and then sometimes dream big. Sometimes too big maybe. And it's always good to have
Yeah.
have a partner
Yeah.
to throw like ideas at, and then see what sticks. See if people get
Sometimes
hyped
you
for
need
it.
sometimes you need someone to say that's not the way forward, or it is, you know what I mean? Like, it just depends on the idea.
But what about Kenna? Kenna, are you coming back? I
Well,
think.
I'm hyped for the war, right? But do you remember every war before the Casino War, when like NC and back then Black Legion would get dead rowdy, and they come and invade like Fountain, and then the entire coalition back then, which was the CFC, would deploy to defend against Fountain. It just kind of feels like that, right, at the minute. Because I
You
just
have way more people than us this time, though. It's not even close to like that used to be like, yeah, they didn't have as many people, but they had more supers. But so it was like a more balanced thing. But yeah, those would always burn out. Yeah.
but like that's how it because I don't have all the answers or all the intel, but from what I've been seeing, I'm not seeing enough movement yet to warrant this being something serious. Maybe you guys have been seeing stuff I haven't, and that's fair enough. But like
Well,
I'm
you got
still
10 days
on
ahead
the
of time,
fence.
right?
Yeah, I'm still on the fence about it, like waiting to see if it actually happens. So yeah, I know that Test are making movements for definite, but I've not seen PanFan make enough moves yet to make me think, yeah, the goons are gonna be I say
They're
goons,
they're
you know,
coming. They're
yeah,
coming.
yeah. But
Yeah.
how are they coming? Or in what form are they coming is perhaps what I'm trying to say, Asher.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me be the first to invite you back into the fold. And specifically, there's one real fringe benefit that you are not thinking about. If you rejoined, you could get PL people messaging you every day, letting you know that you would be better appreciated in Pandemic Legion.
But wait a second, he's not going to
You start getting
rejoin
that.
technically, right? I mean, the Imperium, yes, but he's going to join in it, obviously.
Oh, was that
But
what?
you know what I heard, though? You know what I
Did you
heard?
just invite me to a Kendarr dating show? Is that what just happened?
That is what's happening, I think. But you know what
Yeah.
I heard? Kenna, you got drunk the other day, and you told tons of people that
I did.
you're gonna come back and you're gonna join like in it. You told me you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
join
did.
in it. You
Yeah, I did.
told whoever,
Yeah, I
I
was
don't even
probably
know.
drunk because I was drunk and I was listening to Mittens give the State of the Guardian, and it actually made me go out and buy a brand new gaming PC, right, to get back into Eve.
Wow.
So yeah, it did really kick because this is what wars do in Eve, right?
Yeah,
I remember the Casino War in Saren, and it was such a fun
it
time.
really was.
It was literally absolutely amazing, and it's super tempting. I don't know at this time, but it's super tempting. Like to get involved with you guys, but I mean, my take on it is you guys are going to be fine, but I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Well,
But
It's funny, you're like much more sanguine than I am. Like about our odds in this. Like I'm like, man, I'm always a prep for the worst kind of guy. So maybe that has to do with it. But
yeah, yeah.
they definitely, like, if everyone shows up that I think is showing up, it's going to be like a really, really, really hard battle. It doesn't
yeah,
matter how much home field you have when the numbers are that out of whack.
I
So
think it's the first time. Not only is the Imperium outnumbered now, but it's the
mm,
kind of the first time. I mean, what would be? right? Or Casino War. We were like outnumbered to fuck, but it feels like a different time. That's why I think the name World War B2 they're trying to coin, or like, is there another name that's going around? I'm not quite sure, but I think that name is not as fitting because I think the situation is way different now, right? It's not that many small groups that are all coming together. Like, it feels like the entire, like, all big groups are banding together, which is basically what it's basically what a Willy worked towards. I felt like always, right? So I feel like it's a different thing. So calling it what would be two,
Yeah.
it's just a lame name anyway. Come on, right?
I've got something I do want to
like
get
the
off
World
my
War B
chest.
name.
I've got something I do want to get off my chest, which is like So I was in two minds about the whole nip reset from Test. At first, hats off for them making that move. Like my hat comes off for them making
Well,
that
he
move 'cause
blames
they
me
feel.
for it. You know that, right?
Sorry.
He blamed me for it when I was on talking at
Yeah, I
stations.
saw that one.
But
Well, so what? Yeah, go ahead.
but like my hat comes off, like, good on you for making a move for. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see it content because I know we hate that word, or we're not a fan of that word. But and then on the other hand, Asher, I'm kind of disappointed in some ways in Goons for not winning the Diplo game on this. Like, after the North and the Casino War, we always said we'd never work with these people again. But then we allowed like our anger and whatever it is to get in the way over because PanFam were attacking Test. I'm talking about ULAX, to be fair with you. And we went and helped them then through what was considered their difficult time or what was looking to be difficult for them. And
Yeah.
then now we should have just thrown them out to the wolves, Asher. We should have just gone, no, sorry, you're on your own. Because now they're coming for us. And
It's fair.
after, they're just going to go back to fighting each other. Whatever happens after, they're going to go back to fighting each other. But it's still like, why? I just feel like we should have never had the nip and we should have always been, let's say, like brawling or fighting with Test. We'd have got to this stage probably much quicker. I guess really both sides have had like 5 years to get to this point, more or less.
Yeah, it's fair. I think there's a couple things. Like, I think that we were worried that in a Test versus Goons war, if that's what devolved, because we're close to each other, that we just fight each other until both sides were very weak, and then Panda Fam would come in and just take just destroy the rest really easily after we'd worn each other out. These tripartite like arrangements of the map are just not stable, I think. And I think you're right. We did get played a bit. Test asked us to go on this northern deployment so that their cash deployment would have a better chance of succeeding. And then I don't know. Here's what I don't know. I don't know if it's they lost really badly and then allied with the people they lost to, or if it was planned all along. That's what I don't know. I just do, what I do know is what they did. They asked us to help them, and then then they turned on us. So either they decided that they can't beat them, so they're going to join them, like, or they decided, or it was decided long ago, and that's what I don't know.
So
there you go.
What I think what happened there is actually, like, I don't think there was anything planned like this. It kind of developed into this, right? But also, I think they saw, like, it's not a secret that, like, Init has been pushing to end that nip for quite a while, right? We were quite, annoyed by it because our jump bridges were getting hit in Cloud Ring that are not covered by the nip. And if you look at the nip, right, for those who are not aware, there's Imperium regions on the nip, and I think it's like 4 or 5, right? It's Quirius, Delph, Period Bases, Fountain, and it's basically it, right? What else? Something else maybe, right? But then you have the test or the legacy regions. It's like 9 or 10 of them, So when we said, like, hey, let's just add Cloud Ring, they were like, no, we don't, right? And then it kept being a pain in the ass with these jump bridges. So we kept pushing to end that nip. And obviously tests, knew that we were pushing for it. So I think they knew that nip is going to go at some point, and they'd rather go and edit on their terms and then sell it to PanFam and so on to then start this war. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a look, let's start this. We're gonna end this nip and do this together, kind of thing. Maybe, you know, I don't know what exactly happened there, but you know, it's probably the truth is kind of in the middle, and I feel like, right?
So do you think that like what happened was like after they like started losing in cash? Well, like first let me ask a question because there's like I noticed in your chat Securitas was saying that you know Mittens is really confident, and Villy is saying that you know that Horde and PanFam won't be involved. It's just testing goons, right? So do you think that's true? First off, I'm asking you, Pando.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I want to hear from Kendarr. Sorry. I'm just used to hosting a show, so I'm like taking over your show, and I'm sorry, Pando, but
And
I'm just
this, like, technically, I don't want this show to be hosted. You know what I mean? I want this to
I
be a
gotcha.
conversation anyway. So, sorry, say that again. No, I lost the question.
Yeah, for both of you, do you think that PanFam is going to be involved in a serious way?
I do, yes, I do believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I
What
mean, we
else are they
expect
gonna
that,
do?
right?
What else are they going to do?
Right. Okay.
So
So
what's
if you
left
think
in the
that's
game for
true,
them to fight against, like, other than
for sure.
yeah,
Once Sort was gone, right? That was
yeah.
then what's left exactly.
You should
So
never
if you
kill
think that's
coalitions in
true,
the game. Actually, you should only farm them.
Yeah.
you should never kill them, is what you said.
Yeah, you should never kill them. You should only farm them.
Yeah, I feel like we practice really responsible farming with GOTG. Like we killed
I,
Sword Dragon, we killed Sword Dragon's avatar, we killed a bunch of their titans. We you know we made one of their main FCs quit the game, but then we stopped. We're like, all right,
hey,
thank you.
honestly, like, we did, right? You remember that one time we saved like 5 titans? We kept them alive, literally. Like, they were neutral at the time. You know how many guys, like, it was at least 20% of my fleet was mad at me. Like, wait a second, we
Mm.
rage form for Titans tackled, and then we show up and we just save them, you know? But the rest
Which
understood, like, it was more of a story, more, you know, more fun that way to deny the kills. But we
yeah,
literally saved them, right? We didn't want to, you know, GOTG at the time was the only group that was kind of independent. So I felt like it's a good
right.
thing to keep them around for sure. They did cool shit too, right? They were like good roaming targets. I mean, the ramjacks, you know, were a little late, but other than that, you could always go there and get something, right? And what's there now, right? Is it better now? I doubt it.
Well, don't I mean there is something to be said. Like I understand what Kendar's saying, but on the other hand, you've got conifers and these other groups that are sort of coalescing into a new coalition. And maybe there's something they said about clearing space for you know new people to come in and fill the gaps. Like say
Well, you did
goons
that
or
for us,
Imperium
tribute,
gets
didn't you? For us.
yeah exactly. I mean that was clearing out tribute has actually allowed a lot of things to flourish, right?
That is true, yeah.
But say like the you know they accomplish their goals and the Imperium or it's probably goons really is what they want to kill because people hate goons more than anything. Some people do. Say they're totally wiped out. That opens up like a new space for people to fill in, right? So you can make an argument that it's good for the game, right? But um, the problem is because people are generally logical, they're going to go to the group that has you know the highest chance of winning, and that's why you see this conglomeration of people. And we've certainly used it to our benefit. So when you kill a group like you know those people don't usually go to new groups they conglomerate into the already existing groups and that's how you
Yes.
get these giant power blocks that
Yeah.
that end up existing.
I don't get that in the game, right? Because if I owned a corp and somebody came in and
Mhm.
dominated my alliance, I wouldn't then join them. I'd
No,
go and
yeah,
join somebody else
it is
personally.
weird.
But people seem to be like, "Well, you're the king, so I'm joining you."
Well I
Yeah,
mean
and for some
it
reason, a lot
happens
of people
sometimes,
accept
yeah.
that.
Yeah. um it happens sometimes, but then other times you think about like what happened with GOTG, where you know NCPL killed them, and to be fair, all of us have gone and farmed them at one point or another. But when NCPL killed them, almost all those groups did not go to NCPL. They went to Test, they went to Imperium,
Oh, fair enough then.
um,
I
or they
thought some of
joined
them
the
did
NIT.
join NC. My bad.
I mean, I think it was a small amount, but so you know, but to your point, doesn't that hold up that you shouldn't kill groups? Like that actually hurt them. Like that you know they like they had enemies that were spread out that were now more conglomerated.
Yes, there is an argument to killing groups because people go off join other groups or they start their own thing and stuff like that. So there is you've made a perfectly valid point that some like if can you imagine if that never happened in the game, if coalitions never died, how stale nullsec would look. Imagine if GOTG, I mean, I wish they still were there because they were really fun to farm for us living in Tribute, but imagine if GOTG was still there. If I came back to the game after a 6-month break and the map still looks the same, I would be thinking that's not very appealing from an FC perspective anyway.
Yeah.
No, you'll appreciate this. I set a reminder in a channel a year ago. It says, "Reminder: Is Hyper Viper a good poster yet?" It turns out the answer is still no. So,
Kendarr, I think it was your screenshot. You remember that screenshot from Curse? When we were staging Curse, I think that was the first time we worked together with SV. And it was in Curse, SV was in Curse, Lumpy was in Curse, they're not around anymore. Then we had, I forgot, like it was like 7 or 8 different groups. Like a complete mix, and I forgot on what side everyone was. I don't even know what war that was, but everyone was staged there. We had no idea. I think, yeah, exactly. It's not too long ago. Someone linked it. That's why, like, yeah, it reminded me. But we didn't know what we had back then. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably the same right now. Like in a year, I think Eve is, it's in an upwards trend. So hopefully in a year it's getting better. But I feel like back in the day we didn't know what we had with all these groups, like countless dudes flying around nonstop and all that stuff in just one region. Yeah.
Oh, what was that? Phoenix Federation. Yeah, they were.
I forgot actually.
Glorious. Yeah.
But
I should do that. I should do a modern day Phoenix Federation, right, and then just get farmed by everyone.
Oh man, I'd actually totally forgotten about that. FCON made their own alliance. It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. And what happened to it? I know it was destroyed, but like, where did most of the pieces go?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Wait, FCON, didn't they move to MNC or something in that corner? And then join. Didn't they join
Faction Warfare Space, aren't they? The actual alliance was the last thing I saw of them, anyway.
I mean, that's sort of like Razor, right?
I would guess they're in Legacy, kind of.
Well, there's only 8 people in the alliance at the minute, so I think they're short. Basically.
The corpse probably joined something.
You think they're not a major power?
That's how out of touch I am from the game.
FCON is lost. Well, that's not a, it's not one of those alliances like CO2. Like the game was Mrs. CO2 and GigX, right? Because they were like doing shit. But FCON was always like a number booster for whoever they worked with. And that basically was it, right?
Yeah. So back then when you were talking about FCON were in Immensia, or Phoenix Federation was in Immensia. And then Tri was a real powerhouse and was in Inzamother, if you remember. They were a real powerhouse in the EUTZ. They were led by a couple of really good FCs that don't play the game anymore. And then there was like loads of small groups as well kicking around in Wicked Creek and stuff. That was before FRT took all the space. So it is weird the way the game kind of went. They kind of like only last. I mean, you got Vale in Tribute, right? That are kind of independent. You've got Deck now that's free for people to move into. I mean, UFC own a portion of it. They probably want to hang on to that. So it's probably fair to say now it's theirs. But then, outside of that, looking around the map, it's kind of pretty solid in terms of coalition. From my perspective, anyway.
I mean, technically, Fate, Pure Blind, Decline, even Cloud Ring were always open for like smaller groups to move in and do whatever. Like we didn't kick out smaller groups that wanted to move in there. And I think the same would have happened in other groups, in other areas.
I feel like Eve sort of lends itself to sort of 4 big powers. And the way the map is set up, I think that's what makes the most sense. And so what I assumed would happen is that Fraternity would form like a China power block, and they've allied with PanFam, so they're Panda Fam now. Like, so you have 3 powers, which I think is an unstable arrangement. 4 is more stable, Um, so I don't see the current power setup lasting a very long time. Now, whatever that means, I don't know for sure. Some people think, like we're going to wipe out Imperium. Then what happens? Who knows? Or other people think, oh, Tess is going to be backstabbed. There's a good chance of that.
Well, that's
Um,
definitely on the cards. Let's be honest. That's
yeah.
definitely going to happen. Whatever happens after this war, again,
Yes.
I'm doing air quotes on war because we yet to see how much of a war it becomes. They're
Yeah.
100% gonna there's no way PanFam like PL and NC aren't gonna resist a deployment against Legacy. Let's do
Right.
this.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. They have a little bit of a hate boner for Imperium, right? So
Oh yeah, but that's like DNA in the game now, isn't it? I keep referring to a lot of stuff like that lately, and I think that's really fair. I've played this game a long time now, and it's always been the Imperium versus PanFam. Gur Goons, Gur NC, Gur PL, and anyone
yeah.
that's attached to them.
So like what I find a little funny is like World War B or the Casino War. It was a good story because like a lot of small groups, like everyone basically banded together a little bit, right, and did it because the Imperium, or was it already Imperium? I think
Yes.
it was already, but I mean, yeah. So the CFC at the time, or the Imperium, was seen as the blue donut driving force. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in recent years, like it was very evident who was the driving force behind, like making a blue donut reality, right? And now, and we all know who we're talking about, right? So those guys now end the nip, and that's the biggest step towards a blue donut we've ever seen. So that narrative fails hard if anyone wants to bring that up, right? Because now it's even worse, right? Like imagine a world with all PanFam and all Legacy together happily. Like that's even, that's even worse. What it was in 2016. So that's at least my take on it, right? And then the high sec Keepstar. I brought it up on the talking the stations, and people raged about that part. But like I think that thing is disgusting. That there's like every coalition in the game involved in that. That's
pretty much everyone who could.
They all share the money. Everyone shares the money. It's ridiculous.
What would you do about it if it was you?
What, the high sec Keepstar?
Yeah.
Well, if it was my Keepstar, I would probably just say, okay, not anymore, and stop it, right? Then see how long I can fucking milk it, and then that's it. Whoever takes it, right?
So you just like give all that money to whoever else. You wouldn't go and try and destroy it.
Well, I mean, technically yes, because I mean, I'm not giving the money away, but like for one group to hold that Keepstar on their own it's very hard. Like someone's gonna come along, and like some people try it, right? It's not easy to kill a Keepstar with subs only. That's why I think maybe it's CCP's fault in the first place. If you think about it, why do we have Keepstars in high sec, right? But because they're not designed to be killed by subs. If you look at them, you need like 100,000 DPS.
Yeah.
I mean, you need actually almost 200,000 DPS. I forgot what the number was.
I tend to think that as much as the game is a sandbox, it tends towards the most optimal arrangement, and this is probably the most optimal arrangement, right? Like this is the most stable arrangement for that, and people value stability. Like no one likes going to perimeter every 2 days in Ferox's to defend it, right?
Asher, that was so fucking fun when we did that. Just
You thought
Alpha.
so? Oh my
I
goodness.
really did. Yeah, I really did think back then it was because we were staged. I mean, the thing is though, we were staged at a time with SV in Gemini, so we weren't really going that far. But yeah, I did used to think it was really fun personally. But I can see why it would get tiring if you're coming obviously from Delve or having to jump clone and so on. So sorry, is that agreement still in place then between everybody?
Yep.
Between everybody.
Yep, it is.
Right. Because when obviously Mittens has spoken about how the other side doesn't have any casino ISK this time, but I can't begin to fathom how much ISK that must generate. And
Well,
I'm glad to hear is being split still, because if that stops, then I would be worried that one side might have an ISK bonus over another side, let's say. So
a couple trill a month, right? Like I'm not sure 100% on the numbers, but it's some good ISK. Some really good ISK. Like alliances, like nullsec blocks, like whole coalitions
I
could
was,
just live from that easily.
yeah, if I was serious about hurting the Imperium, the first thing I'd do, other than scrap the nip, is cut you out of the deal. And like, if I was serious about doing some real damage to the Imperium, that's why again I just feel like what's coming isn't going to be what everyone's making it out to be.
Only do that if you're sure you're going to win, right? That's the only time you do that, because for those other alliances, that one Keepstar might be 50% of their income. It's a huge amount. You just can't gamble it. So you have to be sure you're going to win to cancel that agreement, right?
I think,
Um,
yeah, okay. I think,
and for us,
like,
it's not 50% of our income or anywhere near it, right? It's a lot less. So we can lose it a lot easier than they can, and that's why they don't do it. Because if they did do that, then and they wagered and lost, they would lose so much that they couldn't function in the same way they do. I mean, it's already, goons have just so much better SRP and like other, let's call them social programs, than anyone else. We are the Sweden of space. Um, and like these other alliances, like if you like, and I know you have spies in other alliances, Kendarr, you've done it, and you look at like what they offer versus what we offer,
yeah,
it's nowhere
yeah.
close because they can't afford to do it.
I mean,
Um,
I'm happy
yeah,
to say that when I was
yeah.
in Goons, like everything I wanted to do as an FC was really fully, funded. I remember one month with SE, we asked for, we used to rack up the SRP over a month, and then at the end of the month, we'd go to the finance team and we'd say, hey, this is how much we've whelped this month. Can we please have this because we've paid everybody out? And they one month it was 120 bill, and it wasn't even scoffed at. It was just given to me, and they just trusted that that was, I had paid that out to our members at the time, which I had, and obviously,
You,
that's
you paid out 110 to the members. Yeah, I got it.
yeah, you got it. And skim that bill off the top. Yeah, no, but you're entirely right. It was always well funded, which I liked. We all did. We all liked it. And the reason, looking back, realistically, the reason I got tired being in the Imperium was it was ultimately because like we were just kind of doing the same thing all the time, and this is why like I think I'm really hurt around the whole like nip thing with test and them cancelling it, because I just wish they'd have done it while I was still there. Like, I really wish.
You
So
forgot about the timing.
yeah, you know
uh,
I remember there was at one point that somebody was super angry. Somebody important was super angry over something that had happened. I'm not giving away too much. And he was nearly ready to pull the trigger on sending all the squads and SIGs in on Legacy at the time. And I just wish he had. I really just wish he had, because it was just like content on the doorstep. And I know we hate that word, but we all play the game for fights, right? Or most of us play the game for fights. And that would have been, I would have never left. I would have never left back then. But it's fair enough that he thought, instead we're going to go this other route, which probably was the right route, like to go.
it's weird. Like you play the game on what time scale? Like I know certain players, certain FCs play the game on this fight time scale. Like I'm going to do whatever I can to win this fight. It doesn't matter the consequences, right? Or you can play it a month out, or you can play it years out. And I think we being goons have played it years out for a long time. And for group survival, that's the way to do it. Like if you want to continue associating in space with your spaceship friends, that's the right way to play. But it's not always rewarding that day, right? And someone like Gig X, who no longer plays the game, played, for that
Short
day.
game. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Um, like, and I don't, yeah, I don't have I never had a problem with that. You know, I don't think that's wrong. How would you say something is wrong in that sense?
You're
But
right.
if your goal is to maintain your, group of people in the same state they are today, playing the long way is the right way to do it. It's just often not the fun way for that particular fight.
Really fair. Yeah, that's exactly it on a nutshell, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the bigger version of a war, right? Like you can't
Mhm.
always give them the good fight. You can't entertain hostiles. Like I think that's a
Yes.
mistake we did when the Horde deployed and all that stuff, but we cannot, like if this war really kicks off, we cannot just take fights for the sake of it, right? We have to be very careful because like
I agree.
it's their moment. Like they have to come, go like we got to be defending, really, right?
Yeah,
So
Tib always summed it up. To be fair, Tib summed up what you've just said there, Asher, in one kind of like sentence. He called it the eternal war, didn't he?
Mm.
It's like it should always be, the eternal war, which he was. And you're right, really. You're right with everything you just said. I am very much for the next fight. I'm never for where am I going to be in a year?
Mhm.
Because Eve's a
I think,
good game.
yeah.
Like me, that's kind of why, I guess. Maybe that's an argument back. I'm not sure. That's the argument I want to say back. But then I know Eve is a game to you guys as well, and Eve is a very long game to you guys. Whereas me, it's a very short game, which sounds like I'm just going to quit tomorrow to everyone listening.
I view Eve more as a hobby than a game, to be honest. I have a lot more fun games I can play in other times.
Yeah, there as well.
Um, I also agree with Pando. I think that in this war you can't feed them, but my philosophy has been in the last few years that it's better to take fights outnumbered. Like I know,
I
there's
agree.
certain FCs like in Horde who just will never take an even fight. They'll only take a fight that they have a big advantage in, right?
Yeah,
And I
they
think I
have
think
they have the ticker advantage there, right?
I think that it's better for your guys to take those outnumbered fight. And I know I've been saying this for a while, and I know you've heard me say it before, but it's better to take those outnumbered fight because it challenges your people and it gives them the most opportunities to fight. Um, but when you get to like war for survival, no, you can't just And I think everyone understand that when we're like, hey, this particular fight we can't take, they're gonna be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like we've built up a lot of credit, I think, over the past few years with our strategy where we moved away from Hell Dunker blue balls to so that now when it's vital to your survival, then they'll be understanding. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I'm saying, like, when they first deployed just the SIG and stuff, we kept going there, and then we knew, like, they have the advantage, they're closer and stuff like this. So we took some fights and stuff like this, and a good few times outnumbered. But
Mhm.
as the second it changes to, like, a survival kind of thing,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also arguing that because you did we took some fights there, or the Snuff thing in Losec, they're very hard to fight. Snuff are really good at that
Yeah.
one particular thing. It's like getting the
Yeah.
fight on their terms and then having the perfect tools for it, and they're hard
Yeah,
to
they'll only
spy
fight you
on.
on their terms, like downtime Australian time zone is
Well,
like you know
they're
what I mean. Whatever the
smart
best is for them.
dudes. They're smart
Yeah.
dudes, high and tall. They're fucking crafty as
Yeah.
shit too, right? Like we've been
Yeah.
working with them for so long, and then all the Losec like dreads are gonna be like perfectly fit, EM thermal plus slave
Mhm.
sets. So it's very hard to trade evenly, right? For groups
Yeah.
like us, we cannot do that, right? So
Yeah.
it's gonna be tough to fight them, and then we look soft
No,
suddenly, and then suddenly people are like, oh, we can do this, right?
Yes, I agree. I think it makes you look weak to people who don't understand it. I totally agree with you. And I think they believe we're weak. I think that they truly actually believe that. And I'm really happy to hopefully I'm 95% sure this war happens, but I'm really happy to get a chance to test that. And I know they're going to have more supers than us, more people, more everything. I know that, but I'm really happy that I think we're going to get a chance to show our mettle. Because they've spent the last 3 years, let's say. Well, no, I mean casino workouts too. Last 4 years, fighting outnumbered. When I mean fighting outnumbered, I mean they have the numbers. Never taking hard fights, and I think we will soon see the quality of their people versus the quality of ours, because we've spent the last 4 years training for it, and they've spent the last 4 years getting soft and fat. So,
With Legacy in that regard, I would argue the reverse. From what I
mhm,
saw, if I'm honest.
mhm,
So I always, when I was in Goons, I used to criticize Legacy all the time. Like they never had any downtime. The military was always doing something, deployed somewhere, going a
yeah,
certain direction, grinding something out, whatever. And I was like, I didn't understand it from a Goon from the Imperium perspective, because we obviously had we had SIGs and squads that would go out, and then really we mobilized the entire coalition to go and do something. But Test was always mobilizing themselves to go and do something, and now I'm kind of like, I kind of see it for what it is, in reverse. I kind of like, okay, so it's kind of good they're always doing something, whereas the Imperium has sat still. Well, you haven't sat still, but you have always been aggressive. I completely agree with that, but like, I don't know, it's just been, I think it's been better for Legacy than it has the Imperium when they've been doing stuff. That's my
So
take on it. That
my-
makes
To be
sense.
fair, I was thinking of PanFam when I was saying that. I wasn't really thinking of
Okay,
Legacy.
sorry.
So I
Well,
know
when-
I didn't specify. So I mean that makes sense. Remember, according to Villy, PanFam's not going to be in this war, so I really shouldn't even be talking about them at all.
Say that, but then I'm pretty
What?
sure
Willy is wait a second.
the-
Willy is saying
the
PanFam's not gonna.
ATAC in Syndicate or something, hasn't it? So
Sorry,
it's
you
only
broke up,
4
Kendarr.
right?
Kendarr, you broke up, and I talked over you, so you have to repeat
Sorry.
that.
Sorry, I was saying that hasn't PanFam SIG deployed to ATAC S in Syndicate? I say PanFam, I mean Horde SIG. I can't remember what it's called, because you've all renamed your SIGs to something like very generic. DEF, I think it's called, right?
So we did Jeff GEF Goon Expeditionary Force, and then Horde did DEF the Drone Lands Expeditionary Force. They basically just took our name and changed the letter, so that's why it's a little confusing.
Why did you all do that? It's so boring.
Yeah,
We don't even have 6. I mean, we're just a goon sick anyway, so never mind.
yeah. According to other people, that's what initiative is. I think initiative is great to have in the Imperium because they have a totally separate FC structure.
Yes.
And it's really good when you can just say to someone, "Do this job," and and they will take care of it. So you're like, "Hey, will you guys fight in this area?" And then they'll handle it, right? You don't have to task people. Like, you just say, "This is what we need to get done. We'll do this. You do this." And having that separate structure is actually super useful. And
Yeah.
I'm actually really thankful that I don't have to,
I
you know.
always called in it the last CFC alliance, and what I meant by that was in the Imperium, and what I meant by that was that they could always stand on their own and do stuff. So my perception of the CFC, and this is probably wrong because I wasn't an FC back then, was that you had like SMA living in Delve or something, and Black Legion would deploy to the border of Delve and start hitting SMA stuff, and then SMA would try and defend against Black Legion, get into some fights with them. Okay, so it's like a local alliance scuffle, lose a couple of fights, and then call in the entire coalition. And that was like, people could stand on their own to their own extent. And then obviously we had the Imperium where, basically everybody, and I don't mean to shit talk any Imperium alliance, but basically everyone is an extension of Goonswarm. Well, that's how it felt to me when I was in the Imperium, except for Init. Init always stood on their own, but the other alliances, to me personally, felt very much like they didn't stand on their own or do their own thing, kind of ever.
You know
I
what?
think very purposely so, right? Like
Yeah.
that after the Casino War, we saw what happens when you have a lot of people who are sort of loosely allied with you who will not listen to what you make, which when it's the right call, but it's a tough call. So,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah, that's fair.
it,
Yeah, that's very fair.
in it definitely has earned their independence. And I think that groups like FCON and SMA showed why it was a bad idea to have groups that were not
Yeah,
competent but were independent.
in reflection,
Yeah,
remember when we said did we say don't fly hurricanes once or something in the north
yeah.
in the
They were flying these Hurricane Fleet issue. FCON was flying this Hurricane Fleet issue fleet, and I messaged their FC. I don't remember his name, but he was the dude who made that that presentation at E Vegas about how hard it
Wolf
was to be an
something.
FC.
It was
Was
Wolf
that it?
something.
I
Yeah.
don't remember his name, but I messaged him. I'm like, they had 3 doctrines. I'm like, do not bring hurricanes. They're bringing 1,000 bombers. Do not bring hurricanes. This was, I think this was actually the fight where CO2 flipped. It might have been that one or the one right before it. Anyway, so he's like, yeah, no problem. Well, what do they do? They show up in a Sleipnir Hurricane Fleet issue
Wolfpack
fleet.
10.
Was it Wolfpack? I don't remember.
Wolfpack, that was it, yes. Wolfpack 10.
They show up with this Hurricane Fleet issue and Sleipnir fleet. They land on the gate. About 80 bombers at all angles decloak. Their entire FCON fleet is destroyed. I mean, there's 0 survivors because the gate is, tie-dyed so bad they can't jump. And they lose the entire fleet. They are totally uninvolved in the fight. The fight goes on for 10 more hours. FCON does literally nothing. because they brought the Hurricane fleet that I said, please do not bring this fleet.
But was it maybe?
So,
what do you think was it? Was it an FC's ego? You know, FC egos get in the way sometimes, right?
Yeah,
like
I
if
think
you
so,
tell him
'cause
don't
it
bring
would have
it, he's
been-
like, no, I have to bring it.
It's possibly it would have
Yeah.
been at the time, who is this goon FC messaging me? You know, you don't really know
Yeah.
what relationship you had with him. Did he have your respect?
Yeah.
Did you have his respect? Yeah. But Wolfpack was, I'm not going to shit talk him because any FC is a good FC in my eyes at the end of the day. But he was an interesting FC, that's for sure. So I had a lot of
Mhm.
Well-
experience with him in Bastion.
Everyone whelped a fleet at some point, I would say, right? So there's
Mm.
no shame in that,
Yeah.
really. But at the same time, like if you keep doing that, that's a problem then, right?
I think the better one was when a PL Slipnir fleet materialized in Venal and dropped on, I think it was at the time Narisami's T3 Proteus fleet. And I just didn't understand at the time how he'd lost, but he did. I think Killer was leading that. And
Mhm.
he completely like wiped his entire fleet. And yeah, that was because T3's cruisers, the armor Hayaks back then were pretty mean, weren't
Yeah.
they? So they were pretty good.
I believe that's where hearing the nickname Sour Nami when we started
Yeah,
flipping his name
yeah.
around because he was
and look at us
so.
talking. Look at us
Yeah.
talking as well about these old times, and you're about to go back into that. Do you see? Like that's what gets me really hyped. Is what stories are going to come out of this war like
Yeah.
that? You know,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I have the
The wars
feeling
are always
this one.
better in retrospect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
definitely. Yeah.
I have the feeling this one's going to be one for the ages potentially, right?
Mm. I think you could be right for sure. I think that's. I mean, part of it, like when you look back at like the moments that you remember with your friends, there was almost always some adversity, right? There was something that you remember that's like a touchstone for your memories. And I think that's why these wars being such a slog, it makes them so memorable. The fact that they are a slog is actually what gives you those memories where you remember, oh, remember the time this guy brought this fleet and got destroyed and we told him not to. Like, remember the 10-hour tie-dye fight? The things that like make it tough at the
Yes.
time are also what make
Yeah.
it memorable later.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish, Asher, I really wish I'd recorded the comms when CO2 announced that they were going to depart the Imperium. And
there was
I
a lot of anger.
remember,
I'm sure someone
yes,
did though,
it
right?
was, what was the FC's name? The guy that started,
Sebastian?
Laz. Laz was on
Oh,
comms.
Laz. Yes.
And oh my God, Seb was on comms at the time. And Seb was an FC for CO2, or he was like an
Yes.
important person for CO2. You should have heard it over Glue, but like, Laz was going mental at him. At the time, it was very cringe. You would never have thought about recording it, right? Or well, I say cringe, you know what I mean? It's one of those things you just think, holy shit, this guy's losing his shit over it. But in retrospect, I wish I'd recorded that and we had something to look back and we could play that and show you like how angry Laz was that we just spent hours and hours and hours defending MTACO just for them to go,
Yeah.
you know what, fuck you.
So that's the time I actually lost all respect for Gigax. Not the fact that he was an FC who couldn't probe or that he like repeatedly backstabbed people. And none of that actually did anything for me really. But it was the fact that when they backstabbed us, he sent Sebastian because Sebastian was like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He was their
Yeah.
super cap. He was their super
Yeah.
cap FC. He was a really
He
nice
was-
dude. He was a competent FC too. But he was a really nice French guy. He was a sensitive guy though, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean he had emotions, you know. And he sent Sebastian in to inform us instead of doing it himself. He was a coward. And I remember Sebastian was audibly crying, like when responding to Lats. Like he was like in tears, and we were lighting him up. And like it was in the moment we were so upset. I regret yelling at Sebastian because I said something too.
It happens, right?
And I wasn't yelling. I wasn't yelling at
yeah.
him particularly, but we were just so angry, and we just fought 10 hours in tie-dye to defend their capital, and then had them flip on us. But the thing that was the most cowardly and showed the most lack of character was the fact that he sent someone else to give the message instead of taking it himself.
Seb
And
was
that's
the
when I lost
only-
it.
Like Seb was that trusted and that valued
Yeah.
to say Goonswarm, for example, or the rest of the Imperium, that he was the only non-Goonswarm Supercap FC that I've ever known in the Imperium. Right?
Yeah.
So like as far as I know, I think Bliss can or could, but he's the only other person that was outside of Goonswarm Federation and could call for all the supers to form up. And he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did.
Yeah, he was totally trusted, and he went down with the ship. He was such a loyal guy.
Yeah, he
And
was a
that
good
is-
guy.
Where is he
That's
now?
admirable. He quit when CO2 was disbanded, as far as I know. I don't think he's ever come back.
Ay.
He
Well,
just,
there's
like I said, he
some
went
good
down with the
people
ship,
in.
and trust me, we reached out to him. We said, hey, water under the bridge. We'd love to join you. He's like, nope, I'm a loyal dude. I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that. I don't, that's something that's valuable, and it just showed his character.
Did,
Uh,
yeah.
that he got stuck on that sinking ship. But anyway, that was a moment where we were in like one of these crazy slog wars, and I will remember that for the rest of my life. Just like the emotions and the feelings and everything that went on there.
I mean, it kind of did lead into the whole catch invasion, didn't it? Which then gave us, like, I was very fond of the SV curse days, and the first curse deployment was to go and try and hit CO2, although it was a dumb place to stage to try and hit them. But because they had holdings in catch, which we used to harass, and that led into some good fights as well. And then obviously CO2 died, and we buddied up with them. Well, buddied up with Test is what I mean. So, well, CO2 kind of killed itself, didn't it? Because they were hitting the Russian group, if I remember, and kept losing.
Um,
I think.
CO2 did a lot of things to kill themselves.
Yeah.
That's just one moment that I can think of. Yeah.
Oh, that was it. Gigex was promised a rental empire, and then I think Legacy could never get the Russian group that held the
Oh
region at the
yeah.
time to hand it over. So
Yeah.
the CO2 decided that, oh, we will invade this region without like the backing of our coalition, and then test us through under the bus. And that's what's just going to happen again, dude. Honestly, like I wouldn't be surprised if after all this that Legacy turns around and is like, right, we're resetting everyone but Test that's in our coalition, so we can. Because who, who are they going to fight then? I just don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. What really? Why break the nip and fight the Imperium when you can fight Panfam?
As a
Or
as a quick question, or sorry, a quick aside, can I just request that everyone on any Reddit thread that Gigex has made, could you not make the really simple hands joke? I've just read about 1,000 of them. So, hand off, I got to hand it to them. Whatever you got to say. I've heard every hand joke, unless you come up with a really good one. I'm just done with the Gigex hand jokes. Like 3 years expired. Thank you very much. Welcome to my TED Talk.
We talked, I think it wasn't on Talking Stations, we talked also about Gigex, like that the game is missing this crazy dude a little bit,
yes.
right?
I struggle. So I came back in. I'm going to tell a story now. It's probably not really a good one, right? But back in April, I came back when the COVID stuff started in real life, because obviously we were all in lockdown. And I took my alliance, and we Horde had refed one of our jump bridges, and we were in nightmares, and Horde are coming in Feroxes, and the timer's coming out. And we got there in system, and I'd only been back a day or two. I'd not had many fights, and this is going to feed into a point I'm trying to make. Sorry. And I walked to the jump bridge, and I'm in nightmares. I don't have many. I probably have like 15, 20, and they have like, I felt they had like between 30 and 50 Feroxes, and this was before the resistance changes. And I was like, right, I'm probably going to exchange here, like with Feroxes, but then at some point I'm going to start tanking when I've reduced their DPS to the point where they can't break our logistics. And I walked in, and hands up, the Horde FC probably was his first fleet ever or something like that. It's quite often that with Horde. And he gave the order, just shoot the jump bridge. He said, just shoot the jump bridge, ignore this nightmare fleet on grid. And then we killed all the Feroxes, obviously. And I was so demoralized from that fleet that was kind of like his response, that I just quit the game. I actually quit the game again. I was like, I'm not playing the game. So what I'm trying to say is,
he didn't fight you, and
yeah, he just shot the jump bridge. He killed the jump bridge, and not success for him. He killed our 1.5 build jump bridge, but we killed. I think we killed 4 building Feroxes, but he just didn't shoot us.
out of the game.
Why would you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
why would you quit the game over that?
Fair enough. He's a brand. Honestly, fair enough. He's a new FC, right? But I expected him to try and shoot us. And I was just like, if this is what the game's got to offer now, I'm kind of gonna stop playing, I think, like again. And what I'm feeding into is that's what I've not really seen happen in the 6 months I've been gone, or the 6 months before that when I was busy building Trig up. Like, I've not seen any new FCs really arise in the game, right? Which is a problem. I don't understand why.
I don't know. I think we have seen a couple new FC. I mean, I see it in it.
Do some shout outs then. Do some shout outs.
funny enough, just today we did FC promotions and in it actually.
So yeah, we did
One of
them
them,
like 5 days ago. Yeah, so
yeah.
I think you'll
What rank
definitely
am I
see
now,
some
guys? I'm still a junior FC.
Junior FC Kendarr. Junior FC second grade. All right,
All right, okay.
full title. Yeah, we've got some new guys. Like, yeah, I think you'll see people who are obviously going to get a lot more experience. I mean, that's a good thing about a war, right? That's the chance to like really step up, and if you do well, like you get so many opportunities, right? So, um, yeah, and we have definitely had some people go to other groups. We had like a lot of U.S. time zone FCs have left our group recently. Sort of like
Yeah,
it happens a
Keenan
lot.
and Thomas and so on.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you get dudes who like reach their capacity, like as
Well,
far
I
as
did,
we're
didn't
concerned,
I?
right?
So
Um,
Well,
I mean, did you? I don't like you. Never wanted to be like a super cap FC though, Kendarr.
no,
So
I love subs at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah,
Honestly, like I mean, Triggers are kind of a reflection of who I am in respect. Granted, I've not been there for 6 months, and other people have been leading it, and it could have developed this way. But like we believe in a life without supers. As far as we'll go is capitals, and then we won't have a super cap fleet. So if somebody comes along with super cap fleet, we are just going to roll over, which might happen one day. But like I've never had any interest in that at all because super cap fights, well, at our scale that we are, they'd be very quick. But my experience from them within Goonswarm was you were so tired at the end of X47. You've been
that's
there
true.
like forever, and Jay had as well. And I never wanted to do that. Like I keep saying, kind of like Eve is a game, and I don't want to have to be Eve is a hobby. I like
but
that. That's good as well.
Kendarr,
But I don't want to be sat there for 15 hours, looking after supers and so on. So
I
Super
totally
exotic,
get.
Kendarr. Yeah,
I
sorry.
totally get what you're saying, but at the same time, so for X47, for example, like I enjoyed that because it was more of a process of a team, that team played it, like planning the thing and then, getting like where do we
Yeah.
jump in, how exactly, and
Yeah.
like who jumps in where, and like who's doing, for example, whatever, like the bookmarks or the warpins or whatever, like how many signers do we need and all that stuff, right? So like planning that all ahead, trying to get that as tight as possible, and
very
then
German of you.
yeah, I enjoyed that process, and to see like, okay, we've got a team here we can work with, right? So like the fight itself, less, so I totally get what you mean, right?
But then I remember as well you telling me ages ago, these fights don't happen very often, and you can stand fights like that when they don't happen very often.
Yeah, if they happen once a year, it's fine.
Yeah, but all I ever saw, if I would like any fight with the Imperium, if I'd had super keys, I would have it would have been that, wouldn't it? It would have been that 16-hour slog. And there were just people like I just always thought my skills, skills I have got, not that I've got many, it would have been better off served in subcaps. But unfortunately, tie dye, the super cap fight and tie dye also made that irrelevant at the time. So
I'm with you, man. I love like subcap fleets. They're so much better.
yeah, yeah,
I've told you before that I would just delete all
I know,
supers, and
yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
have a problem with it.
I mean, I like where they are now. I really like the way CCP have gone with them now. And I've come back to the game, and to yesterday, for example, on my bridging Titan, I had to take my hauls off and take them off the Titan completely because
Yeah.
they were offline. And it's like, oh, that's not a thing anymore. Spot on.
Did you
That's
take your
really good.
Sino off as well?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
That's something we haven't really talked about. Very few people have talked about. If there's super fights, supers have changed quite a bit, and there's going to be assumptions that people have made, but none of them have been tested. Like everyone's got, we think this is how supers work now, but no one really knows on a large scale how they're going to work for sure.
Yeah, I mean, on this scale, there's that one big tie-dye factor that always plays a role, It's like soul-crushing tie-dye, so every decision can be made in an instant, technically, you know what I mean? Like, you can't make an awesome play and surprise someone and then run through some shit before you can react. Like, no, reaction time is perfect, right? Oh, they jump in at whatever, that range, and they're doing this and this. Maybe they bubble some stuff in a certain spot or whatever, right? And then it makes them play with dreads or so. You can react so fast that the margin for error is so tiny, right? You can pull some stuff off, I'm sure, right? There's some awesome opportunity right there. But it's with tie-dye, it's so tough to hit it right. It's a high risk thing, And
Yeah,
minerals, you don't want to whelp 200 dreads easily, right? Minerals are now a little bit, it's a little tighter now.
let's come back to that in a bit, the mineral thing, because I've got I want to make like a prediction that I've seen. But you're entirely right, actually, about supercaps now because of the resistance changes, right? And somebody's just PM'd me, actually, that apparently now it takes around 19 doomsdays to kill a Titan. I don't know what it was before, but if I remember, we had around 40 Xing up for X47.
I think the math was like 25 to 30, so we went with 40 to be sure, I think, right? In most cases. Okay. I think when we had, like, in the middle of it, when we had 30, we were like, all right, let's do it. And most of the time that also worked, right? So I think 30 was the number, actually.
That was 35. So just PM.
There you go. By the way, chances in chat, 35.
Have you ever watched, like, any of the, or read about any of, like, big naval battles, like Battle of Jutland or whatever? Do you read any of this stuff ever?
No.
Okay. Well, I was thinking that, like, the way I think of it, the really big super battles remind me of these, like, naval battles. Like, you'll read about it, like, it'll be like, oh, at 1848 contact was first made, and then at, like, 1903 they opened fire. Like, like, where there's time. Yeah, Mike Flood. I'm making a Navy analogy, but that's what I like to think about. Like, there is time for you to consider your actions. It relies none on your twitch skill. It's fully on your planning and your strategy, rather than sort of anything you do. Like as far as clicking in space, particularly. Which I think it's totally different than a regular fight. Like, if I'm flying a hack fleet versus a hack fleet, a lot of it is relying on, how I pilot that fleet and how my pilots do. Whereas
a little bit on
like, that's
instinct,
a totally different
even,
thing.
right?
Yeah, sure. I totally agree with that. Like, you're analyzing so many data points. Like, when you're looking at a battlefield, like, especially like a multi-fleet battle, I mean, like 3 or 4 or 5, there's so much data that you just have to have a feel for it, right? Whereas in a giant fight like that, it's the reason why I think that generally it's better to have separate super capital FCs than regular FCs, because they have to think about different things in different ways. But there's so few reps, as a super capital FC in a giant fight, that it's really hard to train someone to do it. Like, how do you learn to be a super capital FC in this game?
That explains a lot. Yeah, that explains a lot in reflection, to be fair. Thinking about, like, Tib and yourself and so on, and Jay and so on. And I mean, they all. I mean, they only Tib could do subcaps, but I never saw him really do them. But, like, Jay obviously did, and then Jay became full-fledged kind of super cap FC. And I think John has become the same now, hasn't he? Since I've left.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of just started calling for super capitals, and no one stopped him. And, like, all right, I guess you're a super capital FC now.
Yeah, you know what? And in it's kind of weird. Like, technically, I can call for supers, but I never do. For all important timers, it's always shines. So I feel like also, like, at the moment, I like the practice with them. I really do, right? Because I did so much, like, hunting and all that stuff. And then, normal subcaps, like, let's say Munins or Ferox, there's not that much magic to it. But, like, my mindset is always, like, way more in this fast-paced, like, hack versus kicky kind of thing, right? So it's so different,
Let me say one more thing in defense of these giant fights happening once in a while. Let me get to say that out there. I would not want them happening every week, constantly. But in defense of the giant fights, Kendarr, say that you're in comms, like, in this giant fight, and Tibrizzle is the main FC, right? And you're in command. You can spot something, and you have time to relay it, and it can be discussed, like, oh, should we do this or should we do that? You have time to actually have an actual discussion, rather than just be like, oh, they're over here, and then you have to make a move right then. We're getting bombed right now. Like, it's a different thing, but, like, it's much more. The pacing will like allow you to be more thoughtful.
Yeah. It's, like, so much more strategic, right?
I enjoy tie-dye in subcap fights 100%. Even now in Trig, if we go into a fight and you're getting 20-30% tie-dye, it is quite nice. It's so okay. I can take my time a little bit here to pay attention.
60% is good. 10% is bad.
Yeah.
I never like tie-dye, because, like, whatever I fly is usually depending on being, like, a little bit fast-paced, putting pressure on people, right? Like for example, kickies, right? If I fly kickies, I don't want them to have any time to think, right? So tie-dye always works against it, which is a little sad. But Most of the
Logi's
time,
a
there's
lot
no
better in
tie-dye.
tie-dye too.
That is also true. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think maybe one day we'll have almost no tie-dye. Like most fights will be tie-dye-less. And I think that day is not that far away, right? So
You think?
yeah, because like think about it. A lot of times it's spiraling. Like tie-dye adds up. You know what I mean? So the fight starts, and then because the first tie-dye hits, even if it's just like the server barely doesn't keep up, but then it piles on because the kill speed is lower, right? So less people die, but more people still come in. So people keep piling on because the kill speed is lower, but you know they come still like the same speed into the system. So that makes for like heavy tie-dye fairly quickly then, and that gives the impression as if the server was completely overwhelmed from the start, which usually isn't the truth, right? Usually it starts fairly low and then it adds up. And then sometimes you see when tie-dye kicks off and everyone's like feels like we had that one fight the other day actually, like about some Fortizar in Pureblind, I think. So we took some zealots there, and it was a fight for like half an hour. And then, I don't know, 25 bill died, and it was like 1,000 people in system. But that's nothing. For half an hour, 1,000 people, that's nothing, right? You can have that in 5 minutes with like 300 people, right?
Kendarr, have you seen the eating calm ships?
I'm familiar that they're like the chaining super thing, but everyone tells me they're
Yeah.
worthless, but maybe they're not. I knowing you've got some top tier IQ
I
play
do.
with them.
I do have some plans, but I mean, as sort of a ram your fleet into their fleet and blow them up fleet, I don't think they have a lot of value. That's true. Like as your
No.
primary fleet, they're kind of
It's
garbage.
kind of like the Triglavian ships as well, isn't it? They're not really like they kind of work. Probably, I would say probably the most best in very small gang or smaller gang.
Yeah.
But then, like obviously, if you
Pando's
try
so
and
mad right now. Pando's like, "How dare you insult
oh
my
yeah, that's a
babies?"
good point. Okay, so the Kiki is probably a rare exception, but that has a range bonus, doesn't it? Which gives it
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so yeah, but like the Leshak and stuff, for example. I mean, we just use them as Citadel refers.
Yeah,
To be
that's
fair,
what pretty much everyone uses for them. And then the Ikatursa, yeah, outside of a Logi ship for
It's
an
a
armor Eagle fleet.
mid-scale warm
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I like
but
them.
you know,
Like
you don't have to make a ship for every kind. Like
exactly.
every ship doesn't have to be a fleet ship, right? Like that doesn't
Yeah.
need to be the
yeah.
case.
What
But
I'm most happy about is that they're doing stuff that's not just the traditional blasters, auto cannons, or you know what I mean. Like they're actually introducing new weapon systems, and oh, let's try and do this as a weapon system. Maybe eventually something will come along that'll be like, wow, this is really powerful. We're gonna have to do this for a little bit until it's nerfed into the ground.
But so like the Edencom ships, like they have potential, but I think they only have potential in real mass. Like 10, 20, 30, maybe 50, they're not gonna do shit. Right? They're not
Can't
gonna
they
do
hit
anything.
your own fleet as well? Somebody was telling me the other day.
Well, technically,
chain back.
yes. If you hit targets that are within 10 from you, you're gonna hit your own dudes, right? But key is you don't hit targets that are 10k under 10 km, right? So you can avoid that. So it shouldn't be that hard. But at the same time, maybe the hostile fleet knows, and they're just gonna all approach you. You know what I mean? Like and then your own fleet kills you, right? You get headshot by your own dudes.
Have you played out any battleship fights in your head? Like, what are you going to spread your fleet out? Because you know they'll come on top of you if you're in the battleships, right?
So that's the thing. That's why I say like it's not only you need a shit ton of them, not only because you need the DPS from them, but you also want to fight a big fleet, because if you hit a target, you want it to bounce even if they're spread out. You cannot spread, like let's say 200 people or 150 people. You can't spread them out so far that everyone is 10 km from each other. No, it just doesn't work. So they might not be anchored perfectly, and not everyone has the potential to be hit, but maybe in big fleets, that's actually what you want. Because think about it, if you get hit and it spreads over 200 or 150 people, that's probably manageable. If you then spread out though, and if you hit one target and it only bounces on like 10 different people, that is actually not what you want. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of interesting to think about it.
The defense against them is actually to be tightly balled up, which I think they did
in certain sizes. Yeah.
Have
good tanky drones, right? Bring some faction drones, and
Yeah.
ball up. Yeah, that's what I think is the defense there.
You want light drones too, because those are the hardest for the bounces to kill. You don't want heavier drones.
Yeah, that is true.
So the other thing about the battleship is if they get right on top of you, isn't the damage thermal? I'm sorry, EM and kinetic. Isn't that the damage from that ship?
Yeah.
If that's the case, it's shield, so you're going to be shooting into the hole as well. Half of it's going to be shooting into your EM hole. I think what would happen is so if you're in this Thunderchild battleship fleet, you would try to spread out. But then I think if you're the enemy FC, you just tell your guys, just pilot towards one and just shoot him. Just pilot towards one of their ships so that they can't bounce to us, and then use your superior DPS to win the fight. So yeah, I haven't figured out a way for me to make the battleship fleet work yet.
Yeah, I think they apply too badly, right?
Yeah.
Like in the hack meta, they won't do all that much.
I can't believe sacrileges are a thing now. I go away from the game and come back and sacks are actually a thing now.
Asher made them.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that to me ages ago, but then obviously that was pre-HMO buff, and I don't know.
Yeah,
for me,
what I was
still
saying.
don't do enough DPS, but yeah.
Yeah, I was saying back then that they were almost there. They were so close, and then they buffed the HMLs. And that to me, that put them over the edge. They're good. But we've won a lot of fights with them. I feel like when we get even fights, we win them. But when we get outnumbered, we lose pretty hard. But I think that's probably true for every hack fleet. The benefit to something like a Serb fleet is if you get outnumbered and you can disengage a lot easier.
They do a lot more DPS now, don't they, as well? So
Serbs, yeah, you're kin locked. Well, you're not locked, but
yeah.
So it depends on what you're shooting. Against Munins, they're good because you want to shoot kin at them. But
so a question for you two actually would be, sorry to cut you off there.
No problem.
The resistance changes, how have you found those affecting you guys? Because obviously you guys form very large fleets normally. Asher, with Reavers or GFE, not so much. But how have you found, because in Trig, obviously, they've affected Trig being a smaller group quite a lot, or in some respects quite a lot. We were talking beforehand that they'd be very negative, but it's turned out they're actually quite positive, because now we can kill a lot more before we die. So what about you guys?
That's exactly what they intended, right? That there's more trading going on.
Yeah.
You know
it
what?
Doesn't change the way you fight hack fleets, though, right? You just shoot the Logi still, right? Like the actual way you pilot those fleets has not changed at all. Maybe the butcher's bill is higher.
I had a fight, perhaps at your scale, but at my scale, I had a fight the other day versus Volta, and it was a good fight. And they came in sacrileges, and I cleared the command ships, and then we just burnt through sacks basically. But we were in nightmares, so we had upshipped, to be fair there. But yeah, it was an easy exchange.
That's the dirty little secret, right? That I think I've been saying this a lot. I think a lot of people who don't, it doesn't matter. The dirty little secret is that battleships are better than hacks once you're on the battlefield, and if you're not getting bombed, and there's not caps there to kill you. Like if you're in a vacuum, just hacks versus battleships. The battleships are better, as a general rule of thumb. But it's just that battleships are carrier baits. They get chewed up, and they're bomb baits, and they're immobile. And if you're going, 30 jumps, then they're also really a pain to move. So I'm not surprised to hear that. And nightmares are pretty darn good battleships too.
Well, they are very powerful. Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
but
the Tachyons put 2 volleys into a ship, and if it's an armor tanked ship, you're putting 2 volleys into the ship before the reps even land. Yeah, so probably more powerful than Mercurials now, I would say, and that's
what, nightmares.
Unless you're slaving the Mercurials, that's going out there.
Well, nightmares can always be spec tanked, obviously, right? So if they're coming in nightmares, it's a little easier to tank against them.
True, but it's still a large amount of DPS if you do spec tank.
But a big advantage is also the resist changes. They came also with the bomb changes. People keep forgetting, right?
Well, so that's all changes.
Well, so they took 20% off the resists of hardness, not all resists, but they took 20% damage of all bombs. So like bombers got nerfed, right? And that's the only difference I can tell, really, right? The rest of the changes, it didn't impact what I've been doing all that much. But yeah,
the hacks got even stronger comparatively because they didn't touch hull resist, like the resistance that come with the bases of the ship. So they only touched it from what you get from
that one
putting on the
envo.
hardener. Yeah, exactly. And the hacks already had such good base resist that you weren't putting on a ton of additional ones. So it didn't really affect them nearly as much as like a T1 battleship, which they did buff, to be fair. But those ships have really bad base resist, and you're putting on like 4 hardeners, and a damage control, something like that. And that's where those were hurt more. So T1 ships were hurt more than the T2 ones.
Yeah, and Securitas say that like battleships,
yeah.
they suffer the most from fighters right now, I believe too.
I mean,
right?
yeah, that was
that's why I
something
said the
else.
carrier bait for sure.
Yeah, that was something else that I didn't realize. One of our
Mm-hmm.
FCs was, again, we were fighting Volta. I think they came in Ishtars, our old Ishtar for Asher, something similar to that. And we dropped carriers actually, and I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, these fighters are never going to track these Ishtars, and they did, and they demolished them.
So,
yeah, well,
yeah.
Isn't it so that the turrets, even the turrets from those fighters, do have missile application? So they always apply whatever they apply, and they don't have like the turret. Oh, you don't track, you don't hit for shit.
Yeah, they work like missiles.
That's how they work. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll always do some damage. It's like if you shoot a, capital torpedo at a frigate, you'll still do 1 damage, right? So they do never miss. But even then, like they've hit the application a couple of times, it's still really good. And especially if you get a web on you, then it's really strong. I mean, remember, hacks have a sig reduction, but they're still doing like their sig is still over 300. So, it's like what a battleship has with links and the prop off. So yeah, you're still getting hit pretty hard no matter what.
But they got a buff, I think, since I left. Because they nerfed on super carriers, they nerfed fighter bombers against. Didn't they? The long range fighter bombers against battleships. Obviously, I think they buffed.
Now they've got an
fighters,
extra
didn't they?
tube. So now they have 4 sets of fighter bombers, right?
Yeah. So it does. Yeah, that was a good point. Yeah, a lot's changed actually while I've been gone. It's surprising how much changes in 6 months. It sounds very daft, but it's
Well, they're doing a lot of work, which I like. But all right, X in the chat if you want the battleship meta to come back.
I think that's everyone. I'm just gonna count like how many do we have? 300 X's. There you go.
I mean,
everyone
for you guys, then is it not a thing? Is Baltic Fleet? We renamed it, didn't we? Whatever it's called.
It's Baltic Fleet. I that was a knee-jerk rename, and we got rid of that pretty quick because I hated that. But we have it, but like you're just like, I mean, remember, Kendarr, like for the last 3 years, we've been going mostly on the offensive, which means traveling long distances.
Yeah, so hacks were better, yeah.
Yeah, and if you ever have to use a wormhole, which is sort of a a way of life now in EVE at certain points, a battleship fleet is totally unusable when it comes to wormholes, whereas hacks can usually go through. I was just talking about the other day. Do you guys remember Elo Knight's hack in a box?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
he got so much. You don't remember that, Panda?
Remind me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he had this, and it was funny because I was like, yeah. Anyway, he had this idea where he was going to use a like a blops. What are the what's the one that like carries cargo? A blockade runner. I couldn't remember for a second. Use a blockade runner. Put a unassembled hack inside the blockade runner with the modules and like T1 rigs, and then bridge them to wherever the fight was. So like you would have fight, 80 jumps away, just set up a sino chain and bridge all the blops to the fight, and then dock in an NPC station and assemble your hack. That was hack in a box, and everyone gave him so much shit for it. I thought it was a pretty good idea, actually.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that like strategically is going to come up in the war, right? The Sinojammer thing. If you want to kill certain things, like are they going to find a way around Sinojammers? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to take this gate? or are you gonna, are we gonna?
That wouldn't work. Would that work though? Like, because you need to have a station to assemble it, right? You can't assemble it in space.
Yeah. So like, but
correct?
like, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
But
you
getting behind enemy
you need,
lines.
you need crazy solutions perhaps for some things. Like I've thought about certain things, like for example, like a Strategos fleet. Strategos is not a bad ship, right? You could make a doctrine out of them.
Yeah, I've seen that
To
done
just
before
get the
plenty of
first
times.
fleet, to just get the first fleet into the constellation behind the camp, to then
What kind
open it
of
up,
doctrine?
right? Like Stratios's.
Oh,
You can
Strategos,
bridge
yeah,
them
yeah.
fairly easily, right, and stuff like this. So that kind of stuff, that would be possible. Like, would be one option that I can see happen. I don't see anyone doing Black Opses, right? I don't think that's happening. I mean, if that's happening, that's going to be an expensive experiment, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I
They're
mean,
so
that's
bad.
that's definitely bait everyone off that gate. You know what I mean? Like, imagine us camping, like, let's say the 4-0 gate and 49 dash, right? The gate to catch, and Test is coming in with like 100 Black Ops battleships behind us. Like, who gets to decide who can fight those Black Ops? Is right? It's like, I'm gonna be in warp and then say, "Yep, we going." Right. So
If they gave I'm trying to think of how to say this. So you have Marauders now, right? And they have T2 resist, but they don't have good EHP, right? If they gave Marauders like the kind of resist and EHP that a battleship with those resist would have, would you guys fly them as a fleet ship if they were still like a billion ISK each, but you had like
a bill.
280k EHP before before
Well,
boosts?
I mean, a bill, that's close to a rattlesnake, and I think rattlesnakes are
Yeah.
like strong, right? So I would guess so, right?
Rattlesnakes that
as
expensive now? I haven't really looked at them since we lived
as
in
a
Declan, and we were just pumping them out. So
as a
maybe,
smaller alliance, yeah, we definitely would,
yeah,
100%. I remember that was always your thing as well. You always wanted to do like a doctrine of that. It's a shame
yeah,
it never happened, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool.
I'm looking fondly at my fits still.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you can't lose on style points, that's for sure, right?
When I came back to the game, by the way, I started watching the scope videos just to catch up with the lore because
Mhm.
it kind of sometimes tells you what's coming. And I noticed that the Triglavians are deploying these structures in belts in the systems they conquer that mine minerals, and I'm so hopeful that that is going to be in the future, like maybe some sort of, I dare say it, passive mineral miner or something.
Ooh,
Do
I
you know
don't
what I
know.
mean? That
I
like
don't know.
that would be. I've made predictions like this in the past, and I'm kind of cocky with them because I can't remember what it was, but I was bang on the money with it, and then CCP released it. And I just looking at it, I was like, it's got to be coming because it was on the CSM's list, right? And this structure now, in the lore, the capsuleers see that Triglavians deployed this structure. We go blow it up, we take it away, research it. Somebody develops into a structure, and I was just like, yes, please let this be maybe a low sec only, or maybe a low sec only and NPC null
That's a
only
good.
structure.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
Yeah,
Like, if you want to have passive income, moon mining or whatever, like, have it
but it shouldn't
have it
be.
limited to low sec, and I think that would be
Yeah,
a good balance
yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like, yes, please, I'll have some of that because that would be. It should be very different to the old moon mining, right? We should never go back to that model, in my opinion. But yeah, I think obviously we're having ore problems in the game or mineral problems in the game, and this would be one way to help contribute towards fixing that.
Yeah, I don't know what position I took back in the day as far as I don't remember if I said that passive moon mining was bad for the game or not. But if I did, I definitely feel like now you can say, oh, that was the wrong call. I think that we need something of that sort in the game to give people stuff to
Yeah,
fight over. And
be
I
clear.
don't know what I said back then.
Just to be clear, it should only be they are deployed by the Triglavian in regular belts. So you right click and you go like Planet
Mhm.
One Astro Belt 1, and they're there when they conquer a system. And it's like, and it looks just like a citadel. It's got all the fancy lights and everything. And I was just like, yes, please, CCP, come on, do this.
Well, it is the same designers, most likely, so,
Let me just
we
point
will
out, guys,
see.
that the Varger is the only large artillery ship that has a range bonus and a tracking bonus. Only one in the game. So,
It's not a
just
bad
keep that in
game.
mind.
Ship
Yeah. It's a it's the only
for solo.
artillery ship that can do that.
Well, I mean, what's the EHP though? Right? Is it 100k, 120, something like this?
Listen. With boosts, T2 rigs, it's 157k.
Oof. I don't know.
I know.
Oh, I'd get
I mean,
PTSD. You know what? I would go
start-
to bed, close my eyes, fall asleep, and then dream about losing an entire fleet of that.
Yeah, you could turn on the Bastion module and go to 220, but
Oh
at
yes,
that point you're
great.
just bombing the carrier bait so bad at that point. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I think Trigger pull it off because we don't often encounter carriers unless we're going under somebody's umbrella, if they're still a thing.
yeah.
I went to Horde Space the other day and started attacking a mining fleet, and I was like, right, guys, we're going to get dropped by all the Supers and Titans. And it was just like, is that even a thing anymore? I don't know. And the guys were like, we can't really tell you.
Imagine you have a Marauder fleet, like 150 people and stuff, and you would actually get that buff that you want, right? They can reach 280k EHP, right?
Yeah.
And then you would fit the Bastion, because sometimes you want to cycle that Bastion once to get that extra DPS on whatever you want to kill, right? Let's just assume. You just think about the number of people that hit that fucking Bastion mod by accident, and you lose like Marauders for it. Oh no.
Is Bastion DPS or just tank? I thought it was just tank. Am I
It's
wrong?
I don't even know, to be quite honest. I don't fly Marauders, but
Yeah,
I think it was
I think
DPS.
it's just tank. It gives you just.
Oh, it's
like, a lot
range.
more
It's extra
tank.
range.
Okay.
Range and tank, someone says. All right.
Oh yeah, range. Yeah, that's correct. I'm looking at it right now. Okay, how about this? One more argument for my Hail Mary Marauder idea. ADCs for Marauders. So keep them with the current, anemic EHP, but add an ADC to them.
I think I like that. I mean,
And there's still
yes,
I'm
why
looking at
not?
this, like
Why not?
a T2 is 1.5 billion. So
I feel,
you're not.
yeah, true.
You have to think from a solo perspective too, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
That's because obviously rocking up and then having another fleet in the game where I have to shoot logistics first before I start burning through hacks or command links isn't really diverse.
On the other hand, if you get them scrammed and you hold down these 1.5 billion-ish ships, that probably are going to be you're going to be pretty happy with that at the end of the day, right? If you win that fight.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make them like so you might ever see them. I know right now the only time people use them is like high sec ratting. I think that's pretty much the only use case. People used to fly on the low sec every now and again, but there's so many carriers now that no one will ever do it or dreads.
Yeah. Some people have them just toy ships. They play around with them a little bit.
Favorite battleship fleet then? If you look back over the entire entire history of EVE, what's your apex battleship fleet?
I was
like you're saying, what's my favorite one?
Yeah.
I don't really like battleships, to be honest.
Say that. I knew you were going to say that, Mr.
Or maybe the Ravens. Yeah.
Ravens are fun. Yeah, it definitely is a missile one. Like Ravens or Typhoons, for sure.
It me up perfectly. Mine is the Alpha fleet. I fucking loved Alpha fleet. It was brilliant.
You just like the finger of God. You just like deleting targets.
Yeah. Although I never got a chance to fly with the dummies pre-century nerf, if that makes sense.
They were strong. They were really strong. But I was thinking about like Ravens, Typhoons, Dommies was all the thing came to mind because they all require you to do something to mitigate your disadvantages. Like Alpha Fleet, you're literally just hoping everyone fires at the same time and maybe getting webs, right? Like that's all you do in an Alpha Fleet. Like a Raven Fleet, a Typhoon Fleet, and a Dommy Fleet all have some drawback that you have to work around, and that's what appeals to me.
They're a little bit more challenging, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done the fleet in a long time where I got to do the countdown. You know how you do.
Mm-hmm. 3,
Yeah,
2, 1, fire.
Just it was great because it was like there was always that one dude that would shoot the target first that you didn't, and then reps would land and you'd be like, don't preempt the logistics to rep this guy that we're going to try and alpha. And it was
typically, yeah.
Done that.
Shine says rocks. I think I know why he says that. We had this war against what was the coalition at the time? I forgot. Dinner Squad or what the fuck their name was. And we fought those Russians down in Ezo at the time. And then it was Darkness of Despair we were fighting. And then rocks were the thing, right? They brought rocks, we brought rocks. And then suddenly they switched to I wasn't in Stain, yeah. And then they switched to blaster rocks to surprise us. And then we switched to blaster rocks. And it was blaster rocks on blaster rocks. It's so fucking like you don't see that anymore, right? It's a little sad.
Thing that did. I remember when I was in Gents and I was only a line member and lived in Vale, and we had like Nagas, and we had them in a rail format and also in a blaster format, and then we had the Rocks as well, and they were in a rail format and a blaster format. So that was I'm surprised that's kind of not come back with the ammo changes, right?
Yeah, it's not enough. I mean, rocks might have a good shot if they fight other battleships, but there's no other battleships, right? So if there was like, if battleship meta was a thing again, I think rocks would, definitely be like on the list for everyone to look at.
You guys ever look at the sig on a rock? You ever see like what a rock does sig wise?
It doesn't matter that much. It doesn't matter that much.
I mean, the last
you have good EHP.
The last short range battleship fleet I ever did, I mean, it was a hard counter that I developed as well for it was for GOTG's Eagles actually, and it was AC dual nuke Tempests. And in the end, we ended up using them against CO2's Zealot fleet, and that resulted in a very gorgeous battle report where we neutered all the Zealots out and murdered them all and killed like 36 bill. But that was like the last time I used a short range weapon system.
I love Kendarr when you did like maelstroms with autocannons, just burned at people. That was so awesome. Just
the Tempest were good because it was I don't know. It was...
Yeah. We all miss battleships, huh?
Ashes just sent me a Discord PM of a Varga EFT, and I've already got that, dude. I've just opened EFT, and it's called the exact same thing. So that is from you.
Some other time. Look at this amazing piece of junk. Sometimes I just open it and just wistfully stare at it,
Yeah, and going back to the Tempest thing, the only problem was there was that one time when I got bosuned. Do you remember? Oh, I was so mad when Gigex bosuned me in the Tempest fleet. And we were doing so well, we were killing all his Zealots, and then he jumped his avatar in and bosuned me.
Didn't he get baited out to do that later?
He did
die.
He did that to us. He did that to us, but he died.
Yeah. So yeah,
that was a good time. He jumped in.
So you just sacrificed yourself for a greater good, Kendarr.
Exactly. You gave him the confidence he needed.
Yeah.
But he jumped in, but we were all spread out. We didn't understand at the time why he did that, because we were in Baddens and we were all like orbiting at 15 or something anyway. Like we were fairly spread out. So he killed maybe 2 Baddens or so and then lost his Titan for him. But respect, right?
Like crazy. We were in X70 and I was desperately trying to mid dreads to get in range so I could get on him to get revenge, because when he did bosun me, I was really, really mad afterwards. I was really mad that had happened. I can't remember why, but there was something that had like triggered me, and I think it's because Asher was in command at the time. And I was like, Asher seeing me get bosuned and get wrecked. No.
Yeah, that's always the worst. You don't want to, like, with your fellow FCs that you respect, you don't want to ever look like like you're like a chump or whatever it is. You just
The first time that happened to me was when I was just in GF, skirmish command, and we were going into Cloud Ring, and a soldier was Sky Marshal at the time, and he was in comms with me, and I jumped into, at the time, a culture fleet, and I just burnt straight at them I think we were in Hurricanes and they were in Feroxes, and I got absolutely shredded. And I was so
terrible
that was
fight
like,
anyway. Hurricanes versus Feroxes.
yeah, exactly. I didn't know any better at the time, and it was like 16 bill lost, nothing killed, and I was mortified afterwards. And I was like, oh my god, and that was my biggest loss at the time. Quite ironic now when I look back, because like the biggest loss now is like 250 bill or something lost in one fleet. So that was that dread whelp in H-Stack 5.
Yeah, but that's why they're training fleets, right? That's why you give people those, because the worst damage you can do is 16 bill. It's really not that that big of an issue. But the thing is, like, no one remembers that 16 bill, but you remember that however many years later this is. It's it's more important to you. Just the loss it's what's important. Than that money is quickly forgotten.
Yeah, 16 bill nowadays. It's peanuts.
Yeah.
Man.
Can I just say that
H-Stack 5 fight either of them probably like John. To be fair, John, Alice, you guys will, because I think you were there and you obviously saw the aftermath, but nobody else will remember that, that I jumped 60 to 80 dreads in on Leviathan, and it survived.
They
Actually, now that
wouldn't
you say
survive
it,
the day.
I remember that. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
unfortunate.
I was like, oh, it's a shield Leviathan. It's definitely going to die. Oh my
They
god.
baited you pretty
Yeah.
hard. There, you were real salty about that. You were real
Oh, yes,
salty.
I
Like
was struggling. I had to have a break for 2 weeks from the game
I was about
afterwards
to
because I was
say,
really
yeah, you
struggling
couldn't
with
talk
it.
to you. Yeah. I could just see you walking around like your neighborhood with like a hoodie pulled over your head and your hands in the pockets,
Yeah.
just with your head down. So that's just how I pictured you for 2 weeks.
I remember actually going out after that fleet, and I walked outside, I walked down to my local shop, and everything felt dead surreal, which is really weird.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's
Like,
a great
what?
purchase, Kendarr. Like a heavy bag. Boxing. Like you should get a heavy bag.
I
It's
should
a,
in the garage. Yeah.
yeah.
I always wanted
Just
to
take
have
that
one,
any
but I don't
frustrations.
have room for it.
Yeah. By the way, can I just say I'm really enjoying chatting with you guys and not talking about this upcoming war, which is everyone's been talking about nonstop
But
for
we already did,
like over
right?
a week now.
'Cause-
Well, yeah, we only did that for like 15 minutes. Then we got to
Yeah.
talk about the fun FC nerd stuff, which is more fun to me, anyways.
For X47, Asher, I said to you, and so did several other people, Mittens included, that you were like, I'm really slightly apprehensive about this fight, and we were like, dude, you've got this. Well, Asher, let me tell you, dude, you've got this. All right.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Kendarr. That's it's nice that people back you up and say that kind of stuff. It feels good. That's like once again, those are the memories that you play for. Why is everyone bullying me? Sorry, but why is everyone bullying me about not liking spicy food? I feel like
you brought it up yourself.
yeah, I know I'm getting totally bullied about this.
Oh, I've got a question actually someone asked. What does it mean when people say Asher up?
When they say what?
Asher up? Apparently that's a saying in Goons, I don't know.
Asher OP, like op?
Nope, not op. Asher up. I think they're referring to you always demand. You know it? Kendarr, you know it or not?
No,
Yeah, I don't.
I think very vague.
Can you write this out?
A Revis thing, Asher up.
Asher
like,
UP.
you're like, man up. And then you'd be like, well, Asher
No.
up.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. If someone's saying that, then John says he's not heard it either. So
yeah, I've never heard it before, but
yeah,
a friend of mine who used to be in Goons said apparently everyone was always forced to bring mobile depots and all kinds of like refits and all that shit to refit
for sure.
T3s and all that
I've never heard
stuff.
it expressed that way, but yeah, no, there's a bunch of memes like, yeah, no, I mean, I carry everything in the cargo. I'm like I don't even know if we can say this anymore, but I'm like one of those people who travels around the European countryside in like in caravans with their whole life with them. I'm like one of those people.
All right.
Yeah, and I just have everything in my cargo hold just to be ready. Always be prepared. It's the Boy Scout motto.
Yeah, I don't think gypsy is a swear word.
Is it not?
I don't think so.
Here's a meme.
If someone's offended,
sent me.
I apologize, but I don't think it is.
And I put in chat a meme. Someone sent me that I get a lot of these about my fleets.
Yeah, they self-identify as gypsies, so it's totally fine to say it. I think
that's something that's new since I started playing again. The Frigg Escape Bay. How have you found that, guys?
Battleship fleet, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think if battleships are being used a little bit more, I think the key thing they aimed for was to keep people in the fight, right? For example, if you field 150 and you fight 150 and then people die on both sides, the first guys to die, they might have waited for an hour for the fight to even start, and then they die instantly in their home, right? But now, at least they're in the Assault Frig. They're still part of it. You know what I mean? And I think they would succeed at that really well. Like in smaller fleets, for example, in your Nightmares, if you fly Nightmares, and then suddenly you're like then a harpy or whatever to tackle stuff.
I forgot about it until this chat. I don't even know what we've been packing in them because every time I've never said.
I know. We have been flying some battleship things too, and I was like, oh wait, what do we put in the Frigg Bay? Right? It's like, and then as an EFT guy, like a Python warrior, it's like, oh great, I can actually make another fit, right? It's like, it's kind of fun. I like it. I really like it. But yeah.
Point the other day. He said you could do the Thunderchild and then put, I forget what the frigate Edencom one is, the Edencom frigate in the bay and just keep zapping. As soon as you get ejected from your Thunderchild, just keep zapping with the frigate. So Zapception.
Oh, that's true.
Your own guys.
The Skybreaker.
Skybreaker. Man,
The names are a little bit weird.
Yeah, the name.
Listen, I appreciate these names are so much better than what they named the Citadels and what they named the Triglavian ships. At least they're like names that I can possibly remember. Like,
I think I got used to the trick ships.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, Kiki and Icky. I don't like that, right?
Yeah.
If you have a Kiki, you don't have an Icky, right? Make it an Oko or
then,
something, but you know.
Ikatursa, I have a really hard time remembering that. Like, but yeah, at least Skybreaker, Thunderchild, even if they're silly, I can remember them.
Yeah, you know what? The ship names are not even that bad. I think the ammo names, they went a little too far. You know, I think there was a couple of guys sitting around the table having one beer too many, and then Electro Punch Ultra L. Like, come on, guys.
It sounds like something an anime character would yell
out.
Yeah,
exactly.
It? Like,
it's like, is it like One Punch Man or what?
Yeah, maybe our new Korean overlords made them do like anime call out names type of things.
I think
that's
you
my
just
conspiracy theory.
Exactly. I think you just what do you call that? Unveiled it? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Breaking news.
That might be it.
Yeah, the Triglavian dread never got used, did it, as well? Because that was a thing when I was...
not good. It's not good.
It's worse than a ref. It's simply what it is. And it's expensive.
Everyone
they didn't want
to... On the dread side, everyone's pushing T2 guns now, aren't they? Because of the ammo changes, so...
Yeah.
The T2 guns were such a waste before, but now it's a waste not to have them. It's actually the total opposite.
Yeah, it makes sense now. And that's what I always said I would have loved to see them do with the faxes. The way they did the fax, like diminishing returns of the reps, right? Why not say, instead of a rep amount, why not say rep modules, right? It drops off after a certain amount of rep modules, so that only the best ones count. So then you have an incentive, you have to fit like better rep modules. So you fit faction reps and all that stuff. And I think
you're like saying that like it take 30 modules of reps and the best ones apply, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would encourage. Yeah, that makes sense. That would encourage people to fly, the faction ones, which drive the price up, and
And then it's not about like faxes are not worthless to kill then, because people want to kill a fax then suddenly because they might be shiny fit faction reps, right? But now they did the whole insurance thing to kind of balance it out in a way. I just thought, it was in the right direction, and I get it. It's a good change overall, but I think it wasn't as elegant or whatever you want to call it as the rep module thing would have been. But whatever, I take it, right? Death to all faxes. I think the game would be better without faxes in general. Like, you could remove all faxes overall, and I think the game would be better.
Real hatred for faxes, Pando. Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times have you been in a fight and then had one fax just ruin your time?
Yeah.
Because you didn't have dreads in range. Like, well, that's the end of the fight. Sorry.
Yeah, the fax doesn't even have to go into triage, and it's already ruined the fight. It lands, and it's over, right? A lot of times.
Some people would argue, from their point of view, that not you guys not having dreads in that particular situation is the whole point, really, is that you can't go into this. They're asking you to go into a capital brawl if somebody puts a fax.
Yeah, but
right, and if you
can't
do that, then shouldn't they?
But the fax is this shitty bridge. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
But the fax is a shitty bridge between caps and subs. It bridges over to subcaps, which is like just, I don't know. You can't really like no matter what nerf you bring.
If you haven't got a dread fleet, there isn't enough counterplay against the fax. Is what you guys are saying, which is totally valid.
They did change it to one cap booster now, so there is more room now. So I'm glad.
But they were going to do the anti-rep bombs, right? Which were going to be a thing, but they never did.
Anti-rep bombs? I've never heard about that. I think
they were going to put Logi on kill mills too.
Yeah, true. That is something would love to see. But the whole idea was that these bombs would would apply a negative debuff to rep bonus coming from the craft that they landed on. But then I think they deemed that they'd just be too overpowered. So that was before they looked into anti-capital bombs, to be fair, as well. You've got to be really careful with that sort of stuff because it gets messy. It's just too powerful. And everyone flies around with, like you, Pando, you'd 100% take bombers and just, have them all preload that. And then, oh, hello, Fax or whatever is trying to rare bomb it and deal with it.
Well, I think that the anti-capital bombs, like the idea was that you put them on like battleships or something, not on bombers themselves.
Yeah.
So you'd have to like
you mean the
bring a
bombs,
battleship plate in. Yeah, which that's a lot better.
I know they've slashed the resistance, right? Bonuses and stuff, but I mean, I wonder if that was CCP's idea around reducing capital EHP, because I thought we were going to head towards this thing where they would reduce capital EHP in other means
they have.
It's both,
right?
Yeah. The sustainable fax reps too, right? I mean, you have to see it like that with the hardness, obviously. If you have a dread bomb for 100, you will kill something. And I mean, unless the cap blob is massive, right? But
show my new.
You will kill something. No, right?
Yeah, you would. Yeah, especially with the dread ammo change as well.
Yeah, and I like it. Like, I don't know if it's perfect like this. It probably isn't, but I like the way it is right now. And let's see how it works, right? And that's the same for CCP. They have to see, like, is it working like this? Like, do we need to tweak? And then I hope they iterate on it once they see if it's, where it needs to be tweaked. But at the moment, I think we've got some room to play with, and it's in a good place right now, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You have to remember coming from the perspective now of like having a max fleet size of around like 50 dudes, not 250. So, because there's obviously, you two obviously fly around. I mean, actually, I don't know with the GFE what type of fleet sizes you were putting in that. But obviously, prior to that, you enjoyed, sub 100 members in your fleet and so on. You enjoyed those fleets. And then you, Pando, as far as I know, you're just blobby. You come with 250 dudes and shines.
That's not true.
Lately,
not so much, because we don't have that many targets.
I remember me and Shines getting into a dread fight 5 minutes before downtime when we dropped 60 dreads on each other and killed like 5, and then downtime hit.
That's a fucking shame. But yeah, you know what? I remember that one time you were caught in, I forgot where it was. Might have been Tribute or so, with SV, and it was like there was a Horde fleet, a PL fleet, and Edo was there with the Black Legion, and then you called for help.
Yes, yes.
That was to this day, I think, my best op ever. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, Elo came in Zealots, and I can't remember what we were in. It must have been Ishtars, because that's all we ever flew towards the end in SV. And I can't remember what the other guys were in either, but yeah, we were massively
PL was in Serbs. Elo was in. Oh, sorry. Keep going. Whenever I speak, I think your mic breaks up, and then it sounds to me like you're done. But then I realize, no, you're mid-sentence, and I want to stop. But it's whatever. Keep going. Sorry. No, I just wanted to say, Edo was in Zealots, PL was in Serbs, Horde was in Feroxes. I don't know what you guys were flying.
Ishtars, we must have been in Ishtars for that. Ishtars or Feroxes, I think, back then. But yeah, that was good. And I was like, Pando, come save me. And you had a wormhole, and you did manage to come. Yeah. There's plenty of good times like that. I remember when we were staged in X70, Asher, and we were doing the GOTG thing. And I remember, I think you'd had somebody flip and give us some.
Yeah, one was in VFK. Yeah, and
I remember somebody was Skynetting them one day, right, off of their own structure, like an FC was, and I saw it and I was just like, that's it. I'm just going to dread bomb this four, and it erupted into this like massive dread ball and this super serious thing, and we had like a glorious battle report afterwards.
I remember the 2R gate in VFK. There was a fort.
I was just like, get support how fast it escalated because Jay showed up and then you showed up and then like Apple Pay showed up and started pinging for more reinforcements and stuff. It was really good, actually. I was just tired of seeing the Skynet thing happen and us being like, "Oh, we can't do it." I was like, "Nope, I'm going to do something." And they had all dead expensive Dreadface, and we had our T1 Whelp Dreads because that's all we do was feed Dreads.
Back in the day, that was the way to go. Was the T1 Dreadfit. Now you got to go T2. It's so valuable.
The Imperium's pushing for revs these days, right? Because there was a period at the very start of the cap changes where we pushed only for nags, and then we went back to like a multi dread fleet, and then now we're pushing for the revs. And I don't know if you want to give away your grand plan, but what's the thinking behind just revs these days, Asher?
Do a lot of damage. They have good tank. I mean, they're just good dread. Like with the T2 guns, they've made them really strong.
That's it.
They're just better than nags. I mean, you wouldn't want a whole fleet of revs because then they could, just cheese tank you. But yeah, if it was 50% of your fleet, you'd be pretty happy. If it was 60 or 70, you'd still probably be pretty happy.
Yeah, because there'll always be that one dude that shows up with a Phoenix, right?
That's me. That's me right now.
Phoenixes. I mean, on paper they look great, right?
Yeah. Then you start seeing like Poco sig tank them, and you're like, oh, this is disappointing.
I remember Pando's skiing Phoenixes. Do you remember Pando?
And the what?
Do you remember the skiing Phoenixes?
The one with the MWD, and then you just siege and you sig tank, like you speed tank the Citadel and stuff. Yeah. Or you kite away, or even if you get counter dread bombed, you can kite away to a degree, right? Because you're moving fast. But yeah, it was a fun idea. But it's not practical, right? I come up with like all kinds of weird shit, but 90% of the time it's kind of bullshit, right?
Yeah, you and Nash are in that category. You're very much out of the box thinking, and PGL as well to some respect. I'm not sure about Villy, but I'm very much I see somebody else do it and then adapt it quickly. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not spending an EFT coming up with the next big thing.
That's usually the best way to do it, right? Is to be the second adopter. You don't want to be the first adopter, the early adopter. You want to be the first one to adopt a good new idea after someone else has tested out 30 of them to find that one good one.
But at the same time, I would argue, like you've seen it with Stukas, like we were the first guys to do it, and we had the advantage of the first guys because we could make mistakes at the beginning that other like hostiles wouldn't capitalize on that much, right? Yeah. So by the time everyone realized, and I think that fight I was talking about earlier, that was kind of the turning point where everyone was like, okay, that's too powerful, we have to learn this, right? PL did and all this. These guys, they all looked into it. But they came into an environment where most people already have seen them, and they were counters to a degree, and they kinda knew how to deal with them. So they had a way harder time to learn flying them. So that gave us that big advantage. I felt like it wasn't that we are like way smarter or like whatever. Like we have been flying them for so long, so we knew like a couple things, right? And it was just way harder for people to adapt to that. So I think for no group, I think Horde has tried them a few times. And I know Marshy with Bombers Bar tried them a few times, but nobody stick to them at the time because like sooner or later they always like got caught and wiped the entire fleet and stuff. So it was tough to learn. So it's not always the second guy who is the lucky guy who can capitalize on the knowledge, right? Like if the config is weird enough to fly, I think then the first guy has the advantage. Right.
It's good. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you get Armor Eagles, right? But sometimes, which boy, I really wanted those to work, by the way. I'm upset that the Armor Eagles did not seem to work very well. Because it just seems. What's that?
Did you Armor Eagles?
No. PGL had a fleet he called Swag Servers. Where
I like it though. Bring it, right?
Eagles,
this kind of stuff.
Zealots, and Ikatursa Logi.
I'm a massive fan of Armor Nightmares. I think that's legitimately a thing. Like with 4 slots towards E-War, Armor Nightmares would be pretty good.
Yeah.
When one of the size Shines... you could run those in a small to medium sized fleet fight, right? But you wouldn't want them in 250 man.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think when Shines did our first Nightmare fleet, and in it, like I said, like I kind of like the armor version, and he laughed at me. He's like, no, 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 and he's probably right. You know, the DPS and mobility of the shields nightmares is just so sweet, right? For a
I like
battleship
the armor
doctrine.
ones too. Yeah, I think we've all
But
just sat there looking at look at all these
yeah,
tracking disruptors. Look at
exactly,
that.
exactly. And then also, I always think it's a little bit more challenging for everyone in your fleet, right? So everyone has something to do, and it's like, yeah, it's a little harder
Yeah.
to apply and work, but it is kind of fun.
That's why I like the sacrilegious, right? Like
Yeah.
you're giving people things to focus on. That's not just pressing F1.
The fight the other day we had against Volto, we were doing exactly that. We kept reiterating to our members in the fleet, hey guys, look at your ranges with your ammo and adjust your ammo accordingly, right? You know, you should be adjusting your ammo accordingly. If you're shooting somebody with standard and you can only hit out to 50k and they're over 50k away, then adjust your ammo up one. And yeah, we got there in the end. So, well, no, we didn't get there in the end. Unfortunately, what they did was they burnt 100k away from us where their TDs didn't become effective, and then the Nightmare became super effective because of its range.
You know who else likes when you're in sacrilegious? Like your friendlies on grid, right? If we have a fleet on grid and you have a fleet on grid, I like you having an E-War platform because like you effectively tank for
It helps
us
your
too,
fleet.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's underestimated. With the
Yeah.
whole Munin meta, Munins are great and stuff. But if we're talking 500 people with 500 people, imagine all those 500 people on one side have all tracking disruptors and the other side doesn't, right? Then suddenly, you know, the kill speed goes a little down on the other side. And
The big thing on that as well is reiterating to your own fleet when you have tracking disruptors how to spread them properly. Because I remember when we did AHACs back in the day, and I was in an AHAC, and I wasn't really a very knowledgeable person back then. And we'd gone to Losec to fight Snuff, and we were fighting Mercurials, and I was like, we went into the fight. The fight happened. We left. We lost or won. I can't remember, and we left. And then Jay posted a video of him in his Proteus with his E-War module and like 2 E-War modules actually, and like you could see what he did with them. And I didn't know until I saw that video that that's what you were supposed to do with a tracking disruptor, right? You were supposed to spread them across the whole planet. Because no one had told me. The FC hadn't said it, and that's why that was a lesson for me there and then. Always tell your fleet exactly what you want them to do. Remind them every fleet. If you've got tracking disruptors in your fleet, you need to say to them, hey guys, you need to spread your tracking disruptors and you need to tell them effectively how to do it as well, which, you know, every FC has their own version of that. But yeah, and a lot of FCs don't do that. They just expect line members to know what to do with these modules, but they don't always know. Well, they won't know.
Yeah, Mittens was flying in my fleet the other day, and I was like, anchor up, and then he was like, what does that mean? Like, in every hack fleet, it's like you know, keep it range 2K, but he didn't know, so it's kind of funny. He's like, well, you should tell people. I'm like, yeah, that's right, I should. You're right. You just say it 500 times, and then you figure everyone's heard it. But there's so much churn in this game, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's the same even with Trig. Like we forget, and people end up like breaking anchor and drifting off and so on. It's like, come on, dude, wake up. I'm like, yeah, always. If you're an FC, you should always be reminding, like, what do you expect from your line members if you're an FC? Well, explain it to them then, right? Because then they'll understand. And I think that might be a small little important thing for the war coming up. Obviously, if these people that are getting in fleet haven't got much fleet fight experience, that's a problem for you guys, and you need to make sure that everyone's being clear about exactly what's expected. There was this awesome post that Jay wrote on the Goonswarm forums about how to line member 101 or something like that, or how to F1 warrior 101. And it was like, I don't know if that's still a thing, but you might want to dig it out, refresh it, and make sure people have read it for the upcoming war. So,
you know what? That's why I always, and I think it was on the last podcast that I did, where I said like that's underrated for an FC is having a proper MOTD, have a little bit of a structure in it all the time, right? So people can rely on, okay, I join his fleet, I know all the infos are going to be there. For example, in a Kiki fleet I do, it's very detailed, right? All the infos are there. And then if you join late, it's gonna say reinforcements, right? Take this Titan bridge, take this jump bridge, take this wormhole, take exit number 1, burn to us. And it's very easy. Nobody has to ask questions on comms then and all that stuff. So just having your MOTD in order already, it goes so far, right? It brings like, it's way less chaos in your fleet. And chaos kills, right? It really does.
It does.
Sometimes it gets you kills, but
You still have the MOTD generator, Asher, in the Imperium. Is that still a thing for the skirmish commanders?
I think so. I've never used it. Same thing with the ping thing. We've had Dave Archer has been sending out pings using the ping generator, and he keeps sending it for the wrong location. I feel like it's been like 8 times. So I sent out an opt-all ping yesterday saying if he does it again, I'm revoking his privileges for a week. So some issues with it, but yeah, we do have an MOTD generator.
For you guys that are bigger groups, it's organization to organize these people or organize your people, into fleets correctly is important. That's kind of a bad side effect, I think, of flying with SIGs and squads. Is you're flying with familiar people all the time, and you just used to seeing, they know what I'm going to ask of them. Well, when you take that and you try and apply it across the entire Imperium joining your fleet, it's not effective. You need to like reset yourself almost and start from the basics again and say, hey guys, get in my fleet. This is high spread TDs. This is what I expect of sabers. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. All right, guys.
It's not really wisdom, but hey.
We're looking at 2 hours. We're already going 2 hours. I actually aim for 1.5 hours nowadays, but was a good time. But I would say I'm gonna shut down the stream, and I want to thank you guys for showing up. It was a really good time talking to you guys, and I hope everyone on stream enjoyed it too. And see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, Manu.
Oh, and then awesome. I just made that the other day. The new end stream thingy. It's from a fight, the fight in X70. Were you there actually with Trick? No, you weren't, I think. Maybe your Trick boys jumped in.
X70, yeah, possibly. X70? Big fight in X70? This was over the Keepstar extraction.
No. That was actually, you see the POS shield in the below. You see it?
Oh yeah.
It was about a POS, like it was about nothing. Really, it wasn't. Right? Yeah. All right. See you guys around.
Yeah.